Jackie.
Hi, Eric.
How's it going?
It's good. It's going great. We got a buddy here, don't we? Oh, I dressed up for the occasion for this
do.
buddy.
We
got a
do.
bow tie, and I tied it myself, guys. You'd be proud.
It's Mr. Topiary Hair himself, Harrison Krix,
Gosh.
from none other than Volpin Props. Hey, Harrison.
Howdy. Good morning, afternoon, evening, or however time you guys are listening to this. Hi, peoples.
All of the above, because, you know, we're listened to worldwide. So
Yes.
We're super excited to have you on because for me, I don't know about Jackie, it's like you're one of the first, like I would consider legit makers I started following like way back in the day. And we've since, you know, become somewhat friends, and it's cool to have you here.
You could say we've become friends. Like,
I don't want to overstep the boundaries, you know.
want
It's
to be
just
that
like
person that just calls every like my best friend Harrison. Y'all have you seen what he's working on? He's just doing such great stuff. I'm so proud of him.
no, if we are friends on Facebook, we are friends in real life. I do keep my friend circle pretty close, but I mean, I'm friends with both of you guys for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and I love
awesome.
your wife too. I really enjoy her. She's
Everybody likes that.
fun, and
Yes.
she
Did
is an awesome cosplayer, which is so funny that you, as a super fancy maker, have this just like rad cosplay wife too. Like that's
Yeah,
really
there's two of her costumes right behind me, actually.
Yeah, I would go as far as saying total cosplay power couple. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, let's just put it out there.
We do our best. Thank you.
So speaking of cosplay, I mean, that's pretty much where you got started, correct?
More or less. I actually have my first project right here. The portal gun. That was the original one from 2009. But I think
10
it was
years this year.
actually 10 years prop making.
Wow.
Yeah, this is my 10-year anniversary. It's been one decade of props.
Well, you've done
Wow.
a lot in
That
10
is-
years. Holy crap. That makes me feel not very productive.
It's pretty crazy. I'm looking down the hallway, like into the rest of my shop, which is down that way, and it's a little weird. 2-story workspace with a spray booth and 5 employees, and it's strange.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
It evolved very quickly, it seems. I mean, 10 years, that's a lot of growth. And most of it, has it been concentrated in like the latter half of 10 years? Or
no,
was
you
it
know,
fast in the beginning?
it's been pretty stable. You know, Eric mentioned the cosplay thing, and back in 2008, I did a couple like costumes for Halloween. This was before we'd ever gone to a con or anything like that. You know, we'd never been to a convention before, and we did Link and Midna from Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. And I did the prop side of things. I did the shield, sword, and Midna's helmet, and then Emily did all the sewing. And we did some like Halloween parties, you know, just friends, friend party things. And people were like, "Oh, you should go to Dragon Con." And we were, it was funny because we were like, you know, we like video games, and Emily's big into literary stuff. She loves reading, and she loves fantasy novels and stuff. But it was funny. Both of us were like, I don't know, it seems kind of nerdy.
Wow.
Yeah, we're both like, we're not really sure.
Who would have thought you'd be wearing the rug years later?
Jesus, that rug. Oh, yeah, there's my my albatross.
Your never-ending legacy, right?
Yeah. You spread that rug all over the place. Like, oh man, I remember seeing those outfits, and then it was just like lanyards, dresses, bikini stuff. Like, man, people really ran with that.
Yep, there were Hogwarts. There were Quidditch players. I saw some people who had done replica 1960s like Pan Am stewardess, but in the carpet. Like,
whoa,
they go all out with it. And I jumped ship on that 3-4 years ago, but that ship is still sailing.
I just want to throw out there, in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, it's the the original, or you know, some version of the rug at the Marriott. Is that correct? The Marriott rug?
It was a couple of the floors.
The carpet at the Marriott. The
what
blue
made
and yellow.
You want to make a pattern of it though? Like just to be
camouflage.
You're just funny like that, aren't you?
Well, you would when we started going to Dragon Con, Emily and I afterwards would hop on social media and check pictures. Like everybody tagged Dragon Con or something, and we'd try and find pictures of ourselves. Be like, oh, that's a cool costume, or pictures of our friends or something like that. Because we don't have our cameras on us, and so we just sort of like steal everybody else's photographs, so we'd have some memories of the convention. And we started noticing that, like, you could tell it was a Dragon Con, even if somebody hadn't tagged their photo or anything, because they'd be standing on that horrid carpet in the Marriott. And my background is in graphic design, and I was like, I bet you I can make a pretty convincing set of fatigues for this.
Mhm.
So I went there with a white balance square and a really nice digital camera, and I shot
my
a bunch of
gosh.
books on the carpet so I could make the file. I thought it was a gag. My friend Bill and I did it up in 2011, and I think like we did it on Thursday, right? Which was used to be a Dragon Con. The day you just kind of goof off. It's not really. It's like day zero, and now people
There's like not many people there.
Yeah, right. So we did it on Thursday, and it just exploded. I was not prepared for it to become a movement.
Yeah.
But
I was just
I
saying,
don't think it'll ever die either. I think it's like it's going to be a thing for the rest of forever.
I experienced my first Dragon Con this last year, and there is literally the cult of carpet. A whole group walking around in different costumes made out of the carpet pattern, carrying a sign. I think it's called the Cult of Carpet or the Cult of Marriott or whatever the exact title is. So you definitely started something there.
I did, idiots. That is correct. I started something.
Well,
I'm not a creator necessarily. I'm a replica artist, and so I've never like made something. And I get the feeling that like people who are responsible for creating comic characters and video game characters, and they'll see costumes and cosplays and mashups of that stuff just gone out there. And I have the slightest inkling of what it's like now to be one of those people that created something and then see somebody else just
run with it
off into the distance with it.
I find it, and I saw the look on Jackie's face. I find it interesting that you consider yourself or what'd you say? You said a replica artist, not a creator. I think that's an interesting distinction.
I wanted to ask you what you called yourself because I know, like, it's not. I don't mean it offensively to us cosplayers, but like, I wouldn't call you a cosplayer because that's limiting. You know, like you're a lot more than that, and like I don't know a lot of cosplayers. You don't want to like force a label where it doesn't belong. You know, it's okay to not be called that, but because you've done so much more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody distilled down to one definition will tend to push against it because we're so much more than whatever one thing we spend, the bulk of our time doing. By and large, I am a prop maker. I cosplay on occasion, but
that's your hobby, not the work.
Right,
part of it.
Right, exactly. In the same sense that like I really enjoy working on my cars, but it would stop short to call me a mechanic because it's not my primary occupation. It's funny. This past Dragon Con, Emily and I got to work on a costume for me. And it was my first costume at Dragon Con in 7 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Every year I'm like, I'm going to make something. And every year I'd come and go. And I just wouldn't have time. So my first new costume in 7 years this past year, which was great.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it had been that long. That's a long time. Emily's been dressed up before. And you've been there with her. So I forget you're also not dressed up. Yeah,
like the past couple of years, we worked really hard on her Aloy costume, which is behind me there. And that was, such a massive undertaking. There just really wasn't any time for me to do anything. Plus, since I run this company, PAX always comes up towards the end of August, and then we start gearing up for BlizzCon. So it's like all my schedule's tied up with client work.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like probably one of your busiest parts of the year, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of esports competitions as well, and we have a lot of esports trophies as well. So like they tend to run out their summer seasons. August, September, October are a lot of finals for a lot of the different tournaments. So like Dragon Con is right in the thick of it, and I'm starting my Dragon Con stuff now, so that hopefully I'll have something ready by the time it happens.
Wow, are you gonna divulge what you're working on, or is that a closely held secret, just for fun?
It's so kind of secret. The only reason it's secret is because I got a commission from a company to make a thing.
Wow!
And it's under NDA right now, but it's one of my favorite properties. So I was like, I'll just make two. And I'll keep
nice.
Like the transistor where you made multiple. Same
exactly.
concept.
So I made a second one of these things, and I'm going to do a costume, but it's under NDA, so I can't tell anybody what it is.
Oh, but that's like the best of both worlds. You
have to go back
you get paid to make it. You make one for yourself. That's awesome.
IPA. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, what are your favorite IPAs? No.
Yeah, tell us. Just tell us what your favorite IPAs or IPAs. Wait, just a fun origin story about Harrison. Eric said his first experience with Harrison. Well, I had no idea cosplay existed, as I've talked about before. And I Googled prop maker because I was like, what the heck is this thing prop? I live in a boat area. Props are a boat thing. I had no idea that's what you call it, the stuff you make. And I found you and Bill, and I found the tested video. And me and my brother's like a huge Halo fan, and we were like, "What the heck? How is this guy hooked up with the Mythbusters people? Like, this is insane. I don't understand it." Because we associated tested with Mythbusters. Wow. Yeah. And then we're like, "Wait, you can do that? You get to like make stuff for the people that you really like the cool people," which is now I know it's not that, you know. In the beginning, the unjaded version of me was like, I could just make it and send it to Shaq if I want, you know, and he'll definitely talk to me. And then I found that beer video. That was the IPA wraparound. And that casting video is one of the precious gems on the internet that I love, and I've watched personally probably like 14 times. It's just so funny. Like, you're just naturally funny without trying to be funny.
Well, it was heavily influenced by 14 or so Red Stripes. That was a bad night for me. One of my worst.
Yet you're smiling while you're thinking about it, so it must have been not too bad.
All pain is ephemeral, and so you can look back at an experience and you can say that well, you know, I learned or I grew, or it's funny in retrospect. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was so sick, and I drank like 11 or 14, some just horribly unhealthy amount of beers in like 45 minutes. And I'm a small dude, right? I weigh like 150 pounds, so like that's a lot. And I was throwing up really badly. Into,
oh my gosh.
into a giant bucket. And Emily was asking if I was okay, and my body was still trying to throw up. Nothing left. And so I'm just like, crying because I still want to throw up, but I can't. And Emily's like, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't stop heaving long enough to say no. And so I just started sobbing into a bucket of my own vomit. And so it wasn't a good night.
The best, Max. I didn't know. I'm so happy to get to hear more of this story. Like, I've always wondered. I wondered just what happens next. That's great. Chapter 2 of that video.
But there were two friends of mine there, one shooting and one just kind of looking after me. And both of them felt terrible and were apologizing to Emily profusely. They're like, "We're sorry. We shouldn't have let it get that far."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, you know, being being largely an industry now, I struggle when I start to think like, maybe I should take that down. So that's really not a professional angle for the company, but I don't know.
But it doesn't make you look bad. Like, to me, I consume a ton of YouTube, and there is stuff out there that really makes people look bad. And that looks so true. That looks like so like it's relatable, actually. And I feel like a lot of you guys listening will be like, "Dude, I drink in my shop all the time. SKS drinks in his shop. Lots of people do." You make them feel like, oh, he's one of us at least. So in a world where you are really elevated and hidden off in your own kind of like tower, so to speak, like nobody else really does what you do on the scale that you do it, other than like Weta Workshop and Frank, who are really industry driven, as opposed to what you do, which is like industry and the video game side of industry, which is, you know, a lot of those companies haven't tapped into as much. Yeah. So it's nice to see a little bit of the relatability, because you intimidate a lot of people. All of you guys listening are probably like, "Yep, for sure." And they all have stories of when they went. I have so many people. I even met Talk Custom this weekend. Everybody I meet tells me the story of meeting you, which is such a strange thing to think about. But that's the common theme in our community, is people want to talk about the cool people they've met, and you, time after time, are the coolest person that someone's met, and you intimidate them to death. They don't want to say the wrong thing, you know. So it's interesting.
I have been told that, like, some people have said that they're a little afraid to talk to me, and I'm always like, why? I don't get it. I mean, I think I'm kind of approachable, but I'm around me all the time, so maybe I'm not the best judge.
Yeah, it's because you're reserved, I think, and you have a sharp wit. So that's definitely,
you have a sharp wit, and I also think that you haven't been streaming nearly as much as you did in the past, correct?
No, unfortunately, these days, with everything being NDA, we just don't have cameras in the shop anymore.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of times I notice that when you're, you know, while you're streaming and you're working in your shop or whatever, you're pretty direct with people. And I think in some ways people connect that to the, you know, your all the time personality. Because if you have like somebody being a troll or being an idiot, you know, on your chat, you're just like, hey, you know, and just whatever. And I think people kind of confuse the two, and they just think that's like your on personality all the time. But that's not what I've experienced. So
you're not wrong. I'm pretty direct, and I kind of always have been. I'm busy all the time, and I always have stuff to do, and so I don't really have a lot of time to mince or to handhold or something like that. So generally speaking, if something is taking up my time or annoying me or something needs to get done, I'm just like, what is the quickest path towards finding a solution to this? I'm very much, target driven. I'm like, here's the thing, get it done. And I guess that relates to interpersonal relationships as well.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it does. But I also, another thing I think that adds to it is you have really cool hair. And I think people are just like, I mean, it's hard to walk up to a guy with such cool hair, especially when you're a guy like me and he's like, my hair's like this. And you're just like, I hope this guy will like me, but
aren't you like 6'3"?
Yeah, he's so tall. I know. I
too. Like this.
Do you remember what you said to me the first time we met?
Say again.
Do you remember what you said to me the first time we met?
Probably something about your height.
Yeah, you said. I think you said something to the effect of, "Wow, you're intimidating," and I was like, "I don't think so."
I just want to say, guys listening, I just bet someone $1,000 that Eric would tell that story. So, yeah, dude. I have to tell that story.
I have to tell that story because I was just like, I was like a reverse thing. I thought, and Harrison walks up to me and I'm just like, oh, I guess. But I was standing there with our buddy Thomas, and he's big like me as well. And you're kind of there, and it was just funny. It was just funny.
Yeah, I'm a little guy. I'm 5'8". I'm not I've never been imposing in any sort of sense. So if it's all personality, I'll take it.
You don't feel like a little guy to me, though. Like, I don't know. I've met you, and it's presence makes a difference. It really does. Like, I have friends, little guy friends, that are sweet little betas, and they are what they are.
Little betas.
But like, you're not a sweet little beta, so you have a bigger presence, which is, makes up for it. But those of you listening, he's not going to like just destroy the costume you're wearing when you walk up. He's not going to be like, get that ugly thing away from me. He won't do that. I promise.
I have been Harrison looped, though. I have been Harrison looped. It happened at Dragon Con. I'm just letting you know.
When I go to cons, I carry a jeweler's loop with me.
Oh, yes.
And
yes, I forgot.
And I really like when people hand me a thing and go like, oh, neat, and then take it out. And it just, you watch people just start to sweat. It's
so
the
funny, though.
thing, but it's really fun.
It is. And he wonders why people are intimidated.
He's playing up which I like. I like that.
No, I love it. I love
the intimidation factor.
Absolutely. I love that you have a sense of humor about your, it's like, you just run with it. I think that's hilarious.
I have a critical eye. I'm not going to, also, if somebody shows me something, I'm like, well, this is crap. I love seeing people's builds, and I love talking to people about the builds. I don't go to many conventions, so I don't get the opportunity to do that. But, Dragon Con every year, people walk up and be like, oh, Harrison. The weird thing is, like, people will walk up and they're like, oh my God, Volpin Props. I love your work. You're so cool. And they'll be in like full ultramarine armor. They'll like be 9.5 feet tall, beautiful detail. This just perfect costume, and I'm sitting there going like, man, I've never made anything like this.
Same here.
But you could, we all know. So
well, given 6 months and no deadlines and everybody leaves me alone, my phone doesn't ring, maybe, Yeah. I feel like so much of my work is just like job. Building something big and impressive takes a large crew in several weeks, and our stuff is so much more piecemeal. Meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had very similar things where they come up and they're just like, they're wearing like the most amazing thing. And I'm just like, I would not even ever attempt to make that. Yeah. Mostly just because of the time involved, and it's just like, I should be following you, really. I mean, and I probably do. What's your Instagram,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I have a few business related questions, which I won't ask you about, things that are obviously private to your business, but one business question that isn't about NDAs and stuff is just about you as a personality. I, working for Maker Faire, have, talked to you about, they obviously love you, and that's a crossover between cosplay and makers, and you're someone they want to involve. And I've talked to tons of con runners along my journey, and everyone wants to have you as a guest, but how do you decide when you can carve out the time, and if you were to take a weekend off, do you have to monetize that weekend? Like, I'm going to have to pay someone, so it'll be $1,500. Like, is it hard for you to even put value on doing appearances as a personality because your work is so driven in the creation of things in the shop and not you as like a personality, but you are still.
Well, I kind of push back against the me as a personality thing. That's never really been my goal. I just want to build. I just want to do stuff. So I'm happy to go to a con, but if I attend something like that, I want to run a workshop or do panels or maybe judge a costume competition or something. But if a convention is like, hey, we want you to sit at this table and sign pictures, man, I got to tell you, as a prop maker, there is nothing more humbling than being at a table, being a signing table, because nobody shows up to get your signature.
I feel you, dude.
As big as some of us prop makers are, and people like Frank and Bill are some of the bigger names in prop making as far as public faces and personalities are concerned. Unless you're Adam Savage level, there's not a lot of people like lining up to get your signature. And every time there's one of those, I typically decline that. I don't get a lot of time off in the first place. So if I'm going to spend a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which would probably include a Thursday, Monday travel date, here's the balance. Do I go to a convention and work and charge them for it, for my time at a hotel at some location and do that? Or do I hop on my motorcycle and drive up to the mountains with Emily and spend the weekend in a cabin? It's,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's not a tough choice. Not a tough choice.
That's not your avenue. If like hosting and doing your personality isn't your avenue, then it's not, why push it? So I get that. It's good to know though, because I know that the opportunities aren't, it's not like you're not being asked, people do want you. So it's interesting that you have very much chosen your own career path and you don't want to like variety it up, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I feel like if you want to be the personality, you kind of have to lean into it. You have to do a lot of those conventions. You have to do a lot of videos. I've kind of split off and I've done more of the industry side of things where we're under NDA a lot of times. And this isn't to say that I wouldn't enjoy going to a convention, but I'm here at my shop this weekend. I've been at my shop the last handful of weekends because we have deadlines. And I'm trying to get work done. And so, my free time is pretty narrow. And a convention that wants me to attend is going to have a harder time because of that, because they're competing against a very limited free time pool. And it's always a tough ask. There are conventions I will go to. MomoCon is a local convention here in Atlanta, and I have gone every year, and I'll continue to go. They treat me extremely well. They're one of the directors, a very good friend of mine. And they're just like, every time we say, we want these panels at these times, we have an appearance fee, we want a table, they're like, whatever you want, everything's comped, everything's great. And I really love those guys. They're excellent to deal with. But if a convention comes up and they're like, hey, can you fly to Tucson? And well, I don't want to say that because I did go to a really nice con in Tucson. I'm not picking on anybody particular.
Yeah, it's just an arbitrary town choice.
Yeah, right. Poughkeepsie, some con in Poughkeepsie, and they're like, you can have a table and we'll pay your flight. Well, I don't make any money on the table, and I can afford my own flight if I really want to go somewhere. So I don't know. It's a tough ask. There is a friend of mine, this lady named Allie, who is a con director, and she got me to sign on for maybe like 4 or 5 cons several years ago. And I remember her telling a story in which a lot of her friends who were other directors were like, how did you get him to show up at your convention? And she's like, I asked him, and then when he said he wanted a thing, I gave it to him, and then he showed up.
See, if you want quality guests, you have to treat them like a quality guest, So
that's something we were just talking about before.
Yeah,
before we Skyped you in.
I very firmly believe that I don't understand. Actually, this ties into my next question to you. Although, Eric, if you have a question, just tell me to shut up. But the thing is, I believe that you should set a standard instead of asking someone immediately to do something for free. Go right at them with, here's the budget and here's what I can offer, and let them decide first. Don't just go open-ended. I hate that. It's a lot easier when they present you, because then it's easier to say yes or no. It's easier to negotiate. It's just a better situation all around. So I'm hoping with the guests that I will help Maker Faire do, I want to do the same thing. I don't want to just, hey, let's talk about you being a guest. Who has time for that? That's the worst.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you pitch somebody a budget and you pitch somebody a schedule, like, hey, we need you at this time, and here's your, then people are going to be like, oh, well, man, that's like 7 emails I don't have to send. Why don't I just hit yes?
Yeah, see, it's so much faster.
I wish there was a little more of understanding of that with people, you know, and just figuring the things out and actually being upfront
better
about
slowly.
it. Yeah, but the problem is like, especially, you know, maybe not as much as Harrison, but like for us as well, there's always somebody willing to do it without a lot of extra, you know, or not even, actually, I shouldn't even call it extra. I should call it a minimum package of compensation for what they want you for. So, and we're always fighting against that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, when you have somebody who's part-time at this, and a convention in an interesting place says like, hey, we'll have you come out for the week. And they're like, yeah, shit, I'd love to try. Back when back when this wasn't a full-time thing for me, I didn't really get convention invites back then, but you know, if I had a free weekend and somebody was like, hey, come on out to Seattle, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Why not? You know, once this becomes your full-time project, well, the free time becomes a little bit more in demand. So it's a balance, you know. And I'm not going to say that anything's wrong with any particular side of it, that the convention staff should do X or other hobbyists should do Y. It's all just going to be, you know, finding whatever works.
Yeah, a natural balance that hopefully an equilibrium will eventually occur, hopefully. So in a job market. So, but what I wanted to mention about this ties into like the cost of things. I'm not somebody who like keeps my secrets. I do a lot of like stupid stuff and I'm very honest about it. But, so maybe this was stupid, but in hindsight, it seemed like a good idea. Well, I have gotten jobs, some that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I now know. And I would, in the beginning, I was like, oh, you know, Harrison's turning down all these jobs. And the business side of me was like, oh, I could give him a finder's fee if he passed the work on. Like, I would be down to do that. And technically, that's, you know, that is how you could make a large maker company that's consolidated in that way, where it's like, you know, affiliate style almost, or where people, you know, get percentages up to the top as they pass the jobs down. But you said something that has always stuck with me and changed my vision, really changed me, just because I hadn't looked at it that way, which is, it's so simple. You said, you know, all the people taking these lower end jobs and doing it for nothing, that affects the whole market all around, the supply and demand market of prop creation. And it does a disservice to your friends that maybe don't work. Say you can do it for that price range, you know, maybe you shouldn't, because it is so painfully low, or they are asking you to do it for pretty much nothing. There's like a limit on how much people should do for free, you know, because it affects everybody else.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I think I probably said that to you a few years ago.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm not saying that my philosophy's changed entirely, but back in the day, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I did a couple of projects for some big name clients for practically nothing. And I did it because it was an investment into my portfolio. So I got this job and I quoted the client pennies for a thing. And ended up doing it, and you know, I ended up maybe in someone's Rolodex, I don't know, but I got a piece from my portfolio, and I was able to say I did X work for Y company. I think a lot of professionals, and myself included, have the mindset that hobbyists who will participate in the same field will take on a job like that. You know, say if I was making a portal gun for Val, our shop rate is pretty resolute. You know, we have employees, they have an hourly wage, we have health care for all of them, we have our rent, we've got all that, you know, all the stuff that goes into that.
Overhead.
Overhead.
Yeah. So every day we need to make X amount of dollars. And so if you hire us for a project that takes 2 weeks, it's 14 times X, and it costs a minimum of that plus supplies plus blah, blah, whatever. And a lot of times a hobbyist will be able to do something like that over a much longer timeline and do it for much cheaper. And ultimately, as with everything I've said, hedging all of my answers here, it's going to be, situational. If there is somebody out there who is a hobbyist who just wants to dabble every now and again, and they're just having fun, eventually that's going to make it a little bit problematic for us to compete price-wise. Right. But, if it's somebody who's starting off, who's trying to get their name out there, I could see them knocking a few bucks off in order to get a bigger name in their portfolio. We had a project recently, and I can't give out names on this, but it was pretty interesting. A potential client came to us, and they were like, "Hey, we want to hire you for some pieces for a convention. And we were like, hey, absolutely cool. And the guy on the phone said, we asked around to a couple people for recommendations, and your name came up a lot, but there were two things that always came up with it. Everybody always said that Volpin Props does the best work. And I was like, that's excellent. And he said, he's like, also, everybody always said Volpin Props is the most expensive. And I was like, both of those are true.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, and that's great.
Yeah, I've no problem saying that because we hold our work to a high standard, and I make it a point to take care of my guys as much as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, everybody here who is full-time has health insurance with optional vision and dental. That's awesome. Yeah, we and this year
insane, Harrison. Like that's freaking nuts to hear. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm thinking of trying to start up a 401k or retirement savings plan for people this year. But with that means our daily rate gets a little higher, so our work's a little bit more expensive. Anyway, they ended up going with a hobbyist for one of their projects, and the piece that they got was supposed to be on a convention show floor, and it broke several times.
Oh. And, I already know exactly what I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. There's another builder coming over to my shop right now.
He has a visitor.
Who is here? Guest.
Surprise.
Sorry.
Eric?
I just brought your mail.
Hello?
Catherine Jones, everybody.
Catherine.
Oh, hi. Oh, hello.
God save the Queen herself.
I love your work. Oh my gosh.
So I moved out of the old shop with Kathy like a year and a half ago, but Kathy still gets a lot of my mail.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. Airbnb magazine.
Yes. I guess.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the other ones looked kind of important, so.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's cool.
No, it's nice to see you, Kathy. Everybody loves your work, so obviously.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got to get you on the podcast as well.
Yes, you have to come on the podcast sometime.
Okay, that sounds good.
No pressure. No pressure.
Do you make
I actually came over here, so when you're done, I just want to get out of my shop and just chill for like a few minutes.
I'll text you when we're done.
Excellent. That would be good.
Okay.
Like a beer and a tea or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Is it beer 30 already?
Projects.
Is it beer 30 already?
No, I still got a lot more painting to do, so I'm not going to be having any more drinks. Having any drinks. I haven't had any today. Anyway. So they went with a sort of part-time hobbyist who did the job a lot cheaper, and the work ended up being not quite as up to spec because that person or that company or what individual, whatever you want to say, they wouldn't build the same way that we would. And we've got experience with doing stuff like that. And it's funny, they came back to us afterwards and they were like, yeah, we kind of understand why things cost a little bit more now. And we're like, there was a really neat quote that I saw earlier. It's one of those inspirational Twitter, picture things. And it was a painter, artist, whatever, and they'd drawn a sketch. And they said, yeah, it took me 5 minutes to draw the sketch, but you're not paying for the 5 minutes. You're paying for the 20 years that it took for me to learn
exactly.
to do 5 minutes.
Yep.
And there's a lot of experience.
Way to put it.
Yeah, I really like that phrase. Anyway, I'm rambling, but I think my larger point is that I don't see anything inherently wrong with a hobbyist doing jobs for less money if they're attempting to build their portfolio or build up a body of work so that they can get more business. If it's somebody undercutting just because they want the job and they don't really have a horse in the race, then you're just going to drive down the price overall. So it's situational.
No, I love that's a good explanation because I think you're right. It's not really that black and white. Like there's a lot of gray area in it. And sometimes as makers, and as you know, Eric and I are super active online. We read a lot of comments because sometimes the comments are the most fun, and comments surrounding you are usually, they're some of the most elaborate, and like sometimes critical, which are so weird. Some of the critical ones, like, somebody will be like, I would have done it this way, or why didn't you do it that way? Like that gets a little weird. But the strangest thing is, a lot of people want to do what you're doing, and then, gosh, you guys are going to hate me so much for saying this, but somebody's going to say it out loud. Somebody's got to say it. Sometimes you see these people that want to do it, and then you go click on their work just out of curiosity, and you're like, man, I wish I could save them from the headache that's going to be how long it's going to take them to bust in at the skill level. Like maybe work on the skills a little bit. But sometimes art is so subjective that sometimes people have a hard time seeing their own work the way that someone that was paying for it would see.
Yes.
And it's hard. And a lot of people ask you, like, how do I be like you? but it's so complex. It's a layered question. It's not easy. It's not hard work. It's more than that.
One of the things I would say is I wouldn't necessarily recommend being like me. People ask how to be a prop maker. How do I get into prop making? How do I become a full-time prop maker? And and I think Eric probably knows this quote, or at least I've said it to Eric before. It's an Adam Savage quote, and he said that you have to find the thing that you can't not do. And another friend of mine said about the work that I do is you have to have the want, right? Yeah. And if I wasn't here, if I didn't have a deadline, I'd be making something else, a costume prop, or I'd be working on my car. I did a radio kit for my car, and I 3D modeled the chassis for it so it matches the interior. I 3D modeled like new knobs for the stereo so it'll match the inside of the car, and it's stuff like that. I'm always going to be building. And I say to people who want to become a full-time prop maker, want to run their own company, that you have to be sort of possessed of a level of mania that a lot of people might classify as unhealthy.
Yeah, I think that's super true. That's the unspoken truth right there that nobody's talking about.
Yeah. You live, eat, and breathe this stuff, and sometimes, and it's just like any other job. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's just work, and you got to have those days too.
I was going to say that's true of just running a small business itself, right? I mean, I have other friends that run other small businesses. They're not necessarily doing costuming or prop making, but just running a small business is pretty much a life-consuming thing. Yeah. And then you add the fact that you're doing props on top of it, which is also a life-consuming thing. And you really have to have the want and the drive and desire to make it work. But that being said, you're also kind of considered, like an example in the community of like, hey, Harrison did it, why can't I, kind of thing. How do you feel about that sometimes?
I firmly believe that with the inadequate application of effort, that this is an attainable lifestyle or goal for anybody. That provided you're willing to put in the hours, and provided you are willing to learn a lot. I think that my two greatest gifts are a remarkable amount of dogged persistence and a mind that works very well at solving mechanical engineering type problems. I'm using jigs and machining and that sort of thing. My mind works really well like that. But that's a skill that I think anybody can learn given enough practice. But I don't see what I do as unattainable or especially, singular, if I could put it that way. I think that anybody who can continue to bash their head up against the rock over and over and over again, eventually you'll get the rock to break. Right. You're going to have a headache at the end of it, but I think
that's an interesting analogy. That's a funny analogy.
I was thinking, what happens when your head busts open? I mean, it's like
assuming you survive the head smashing, it's going to hurt for a while.
It's one of my biggest attributes, one of my biggest positive elements is just brute forcing my art. I'm not naturally artistic or creative. I can't draw. All of my painting abilities are stuff that I've just learned because I've done the wrong thing 1,000 times. So the only thing left is the right thing. So, eventually I got to the correct solution, and now I know that.
I think nice to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Because I can't draw either. So
I love hearing that. And I messed up paint jobs like almost every day for a solid year for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing prop making every day, with minor exceptions, for 10 years. And I have been, from 2011 until mid 2014, I didn't have a day off except when I got too sick to work. And that was when I quit my job in 2011 and started Volpin Props full time. That life isn't for everybody. No. But there's a lot of people that say that, the 10-year, 10,000 hour kind of thing to become an expert in something. I'm right now coming up to that.
Wow.
I still don't really feel like an expert, but I've gotten to the point where I can consistently do things over and over again without screwing them up. So
that's the thing, right? You get consistent results. You figure out processes, the certain way to do things, and if X, Y, and Z will equal whatever, and you can repeat that consistently. That's what's that?
I was about to say another thing that I would recommend to people who want to get into this is say no when you can't do something. Know when something's beyond your skill, because it's way better to turn a job down
than to screw it up.
Yes,
Yeah.
preach, man. Because even I'm guilty of that. One time I made something that I didn't make as strong as now I make everything so freakishly strong because of the thing. But there's a lot of cosplayers that the strength doesn't. I don't know why, but strength is like the last thing on everybody's mind. It's like finish and smooth and all these things. But it's like, dude, when it breaks in half, you're gonna be super embarrassed. So and it happens, you know. So you have to be careful. But something that I just from watching you and watching Jordan, something I've done whenever I get a job is if it's out of my skill set, I hire someone and I don't pay myself more. Like I make sure to pay the person that's qualified to do the job as if it was their job. You know, I pay them well. Like I don't feel like just watching you, I see you've acquired Kyle, but you talk about Kyle's skill set and like he casts gems really well. It's his passion. He loves doing those gems and things and other cool stuff he does. You don't push the people that work on your team behind you. Like and that's really admirable because you see that all the time on a small scale when like cosplay buddies collab and then they kind of push their buddies sometimes to the side. It happens, but you are so good at, maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe you don't feel like you need to validate yourself by riding on like the laurels of someone else's work, but it's nice that you hire quality people and allow them to still be themselves under you.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think if you're going to hire an artist, you want them to be fulfilled. I think that a lot of, if you're doing art full time for a living and you're not enjoying it, you're not going to want to do it for much longer, regardless of the pay you're going to be getting. So to say that, I let the guys kind of do whatever, I train them and we learn to do things kind of standard operating procedure here at the shop. It's funny because you look at Kyle, my three full-time artists are Kirill, Kyle, and Carl, which is
what?
Fun. Yeah, those are my three artists right now.
I love that.
I need to hire a Carol next, and then maybe to really screw things up. But it's funny, you see their molds before, and then when they started working here now, and they all kind of look like my molds.
Yeah,
I've trained and taught them like, hey, this is why we do these things, and this is. But they come in with a set of skills, and if they didn't have that set of skills, they wouldn't be here in the first place. And I'm not about to get in somebody's way when they already know how to do a thing well. And it would be supremely arrogant of me to bring in a new person and ignore their experience. I'm always open to hearing suggestions.
That's a nice thing to know, though. 'Cause some people at the top aren't.
Well, I won't
in the industry.
I won't always act on them. Somebody might suggest them. I'll go, cool. No, but
right. But at least you heard him out.
Yeah, but at the same time, you might be saying no because in your 10 years of experience, you tried that 3 other times and it completely failed, and from that experience that it's just not going to work. So,
yeah,
that kind of thing happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've built up a really good crew here. The guys get along really well, and I think they all really like the work too. But I'm trying to train everybody as well. I'm trying to train somebody else in the shop to solder because I'm the only person that can solder anything. And yeah, it's weird,
that's
right?
Crazy.
I mean, but a lot of our
people don't like to solder or something because that's.
I'm moving to Atlanta. I can solder.
Yo, I got my solder thing right here, y'all. I'm ready. I'm already packed here, so I'll be right there.
I bought everybody all. Kirill, Kyle, and Carl. I bought them all soldering irons, and here you go, guys, go learn. And they're not there yet, so
before electronics is you then. Just sorry, Eric, you go ahead. So then, when something has electronic stuff, that's you doing the soldering.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I think everything electronic has always been me. Some of the programming we get. A freelancer, this guy Adam, will program some stuff for us. Like he did the transistors, all the coding on that because I can't code to save my life.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's pretty boring. Luckily, like most of the stuff I've done is easy, but it still is boring. I don't enjoy it. So, what were we gonna ask?
Well, I was just gonna say I can solder, but I can't program. So, but
yeah,
because before I started doing,
you probably can program. You just probably Once you
it's
get
too.
started, you're
I have the way art brain programming acquires like the math brain, and I don't have math brain whatsoever. So it's HTML. I did that like 20 years ago. That's about it.
well, but you're one of those guys that likes to sand, so I don't really know what's going on in your brain. If I'm,
I never said I like to sand. I've never publicly admitted I like to sand.
For sure. He said it in this podcast. If one of you guys finds it, I'll give you a hug next time I see you, because he said he likes sanding. I'm for sure.
I want to know how Harrison feels about sanding. How do you feel about sanding?
Yeah,
Harrison?
dude. How do you feel about sanding?
Really glad I have 3 employees now.
Oh,
yes,
that's the life right there, guys. Oh.
I sand, I die, I pass it off to my employee to sand again.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I still do a fair bit of sanding. There's no way any of us are going to get away from that completely. But God, I was doing a project recently, and I don't know, like if I've passed off so much that I've just gotten sort of soft on things. But like I came home and all my fingers just had these big red blisters on them, and I'm like, I used to do this all the time. What's going on? Why am I falling apart all of a sudden? I guess I'm just passing off all my work.
Oh my gosh. Dude, that's crazy. So I have a question. I feel like if there's a lot of cosplayers that listen, not just makers, we meet a lot of people that listen, and some of you guys are just, they like to make your favorite video game costume. You don't want to sand like me. But everybody wants to know, like, the normal stuff. Like, what's Harrison's dream cosplay that if he could make it for himself, what would it be? Like, I feel like people they want to know that. Everyone wants to know somebody's dream.
I have this maybe a third of the way gone, like done so far. And it was supposed to go together with Emily's Halo costume. It's going to be a Watcher from Horizon Zero Dawn. Spectral Motion actually made, and they're the guys that did all the Hellboy movies and all the special effects for that, and the Demogorgon in Stranger Things. But what is it? Sony hired them to make 2 of the Watcher suits for the release of Horizon Zero Dawn, and those were walking around E3 a few years ago.
Yeah, they had them at PAX like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, so I've seen one in person. They're amazing. They're so beautiful.
Yeah. So I got pretty far into that project before DragonCon year before last, and I have like a giant section of the shop back there. One full shelf is just these huge vac form bucks for the body and the head that I had milled out of like 5-inch thick tooling board, and they're just waiting for me to get back to them. Eric Jarman and I were working on it for a little while, and Eric was working on the eye mechanism, and I was working on the head. So I have like this pivot plate that mounts to your chest with these 2 boom arms, so the head can pivot this way and turn its head around. Yeah, like all this is digital. I really want to get back to it someday, but I just don't know when.
So when Harrison cosplays, it's that kind of a cosplay.
And, okay, the other side of that is my friends and I are really into Sea of Thieves right now, and so...
Dude, yes, pirating all day, dude. Sinking little kids' boats makes them so mad. You're so mad. Yo, I had a little side story, because I'm glad to hear somebody else games in this community, but this little kid got so mad he lost it that I sunk his boat, because it was a girl, because there's in-game voice, and he was furious, dude. And I was like, man, these guys take this seriously, but it's fun. Being a pirate is so fun.
Oh, it's great. You gotta send me your Xbox or game name or whatever it is on there, so we can fire it up sometime.
Yeah. I actually have a group of game developers. Well, they work in the IT. One of them is a game developer, but he doesn't play Sea of Thieves anymore. But 2 of my friends that work on the IT team at Blizzard play Sea of Thieves, and they even stream it, and they're sassy too. It's so funny. So we should all play together. Yeah,
I'm totally down for that. I'm planning on for MomoCon, and I'm probably gonna bring this to DragonCon too. I've commissioned a friend to make the jacket for me, and then I'm gonna do probably a hat out of foam. But I want to make one of the big explosive barrels, and I'm gonna put. I'm gonna rip off Eric's idea a little bit here for the smoke, but I want to put a wick on it with some LEDs so it lights up red, and then pour smoke out the top.
Nice.
Oh my gosh,
that's a lot of fun.
Dude, yes, that sounds like such a good idea. I love that. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so cool. I can do like. I either have something that's like something I can do in a week and a half, because the con is, that's all the time I actually have, or I have a thing that's taking up 6 shelves in the back of the shop, and it'll probably take me another 5 years to finish, because I'm just sort of hacking away a little bit by little bit. And I don't operate in between that. It's just one or the other.
That Watcher
I
costume,
feel you on that.
it's a lot of space too, because that's not a small costume. It's like how long overall is it like when it would be done? Is it
It's
like
like 16 feet long. I mean, it's a big damn. It's as long as a car.
yeah, I mean it's essentially a robot raptor. Is that what they are?
Yeah. It looks like a Velociraptor robot with a big flashlight for a face.
Yeah, those are.
But it would take up the entire back of my shop van, and that would be disassembled. So I really want to take it to Dragon Con and just bump into everybody.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
Oh, I love that idea. That sounds so funny. And then put a camera in the inside so you can go, excuse me, and then just bump into everybody and upload that footage.
When I did the Big Daddy costume back in 2010, I think. Dragon Con was a lot smaller back then, but even still, it was crowded. And Emily and I were there, and I was in the Big Daddy, and I couldn't see anybody. I had all those portholes in front.
I didn't know you were in that.
Yeah.
With her, okay.
Yeah. And the thing was like 7.5 feet tall, but you're kind of blind in it. The porthole's actually kind of like here, like mid-chest, so you can only really see down. And so I would just start walking in one direction, and if I hit somebody, I'd just keep walking. And
yeah, because, I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah, I'd bump into people, and I'd like knock them over, and they're like, hey, ooh.
Oh.
So Emily would be walking around with me, and she's like, he's not going to stop. You should move. You should move. And I just plow somebody over. There was a photographer that I couldn't see trying to get like a down low shot. He was like on the ground, and Emily's like, you should move. You should really move. Yeah, and I just stepped right on top of him. Just
You gave a fair warning.
Yeah. No, he didn't get it. I don't know if he got the shot. He might have gotten the shot. But yeah, there's something freeing about being in a big giant costume because you could just sort of barrel your way through everything.
Yeah. It's like that video game where you're that ball that rolls and collects everything. I can't think of what it's called, but
Katamari.
Katamari, yes.
Yeah.
Katamari. That's funny. That's so funny. Eric, do you have any other questions? Because I have questions, and I don't want to. If you have questions,
no, go ahead. I'm good.
Okay. So my question to you is obviously, like I recently shared that EL paint thing with you because you're the only person I know in our community that a lot of us follow what you do because like you're still on my C first at the top because you introduced me to new techniques a lot of times. Like I'm like, wow, how is he doing that? For example, the chrome that you did, like the brush on chrome that I guess can be sprayed also, and you compare the spray versus the brush. It's things that are outside of hobbyist budget 90% of the time, and then you like once you share a technique, people will begin to dig for things related to it. But it takes the initial, idea to come up before people start to figure out other, innovation to do the same effect. And so I shared that EL paint thing. Are there things that you've like your chrome spraying and stuff? Are there things that you've learned and added to your shop that you wish you'd had on older projects, or are there things like for example, chroming something like chrome plating that you never will add to your shop and you'll always outsource?
So, like a while back, I wanted to get a Cosmochrome system, which is the silver nitrate, like the spray chrome that's really, if you see anybody shooting it, it looks like they're just hosing something down and then like it's very wet. I was thinking about getting one of those. I still might. They're very sensitive, and even the booth is like $5,000 or $6,000. It'd be nice to do that kind of stuff in-house, but our scheduling works out so where we can send it out right now. We've got decent alternatives. I think the biggest thing that I would want to have that I wish I would have had back, 5-6 years ago was I wish I'd pushed into HVLP and urethane paints and epoxies and enamels and stuff, a long time ago. Honestly, I really should sit down and like write up a blog or even write a second painting book about HVLP and catalyzed paints, because when I tried to learn about it 2013 or so, not a lot of people were talking about it. There wasn't a lot of free information out there. Most of the stuff were just like 7 or 8 year old posts on like hot rod forums where guys are trying to like paint the fenders on their 36 Ford, and it's just, they're kind of
36 Ford.
There kind of still isn't a lot of stuff out there right now.
I was going to say there really isn't. I mean, I would die for a HVLP book from you, because your first book is like my painting Bible. So
dude, I was going to say that painting book, like it changed my life because I was new and I got that painting book. I think I bought it off Bill's site. oddly enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I kept getting orange peel, and me having no art background, went to school for biology, you know, with a minor in chem, and like I thought, this is a chemical reaction, but I have no idea why. I don't do this, you know, like and your book helped because you had like actual descriptions of like what likely causes the interactions between two things. I've quoted stuff from that book so many times about like not putting polyurethane over something that you shouldn't, and like the different coatings, because boy, so many of my girlfriends that cosplay like just for fun, it's sometimes sometimes me and my friends, we're a little like, oh, we don't want to have to learn about this. Like, why won't it just work the way you want it to work? You know, like nail polish. We just use nail polish. They supply it, and we just use clear coats, and nothing bad happens. So we expect paint to be the same way. And that's not dumbing it down. That's just a lot of us don't have the patience for it. But you took all that trouble out by giving me like such a cut and dry guide. That's like, oh, don't do that. And it saved me so many crazy finishes. And like, I love that book, man. I forget, we haven't mentioned it in the podcast, so if you don't have that book, guys, is it still available?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You guys should get that book.
And the information that's in there is stuff for like, you know, hobbyists. It's rattle cans, and it's, modeling paint and that kind of deal. But now, you know, with HVLP, spraying waterborne lacquers or 2-part urethanes, and the fact that, right, like, I started a project yesterday, and it's actually, it's not NDA, so if you wanted to, I could go grab it. But it's that shotgun that I've been posting about.
Oh yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah,
we all want to see it.
If you want, I mean,
no big deal.
Yeah, I'll grab it in a sec. But I base coated it Friday, and then like just black and then silver over it. And then yesterday, I taped off sections. I painted them sort of a dark gunmetal, peeled the tape off. Did some gradients, taped up a different section, painted all the wood, did all the striations on the wood, took that tape off, and then clear coated it. And then like that was all in the span of like 8 hours, because this stuff tears and flashes so quickly. And it's been fantastic. I will never go back to rattle can paints, because being able to lay a coat of paint down and then put masking tape on it 15 minutes later and do the next pass, it's fabulous.
So before you started really getting into HVLP, did you have a background in that at all, or was it?
Back when I was 14, I worked part-time at an auto body shop. This guy paid me under the table in cash to just sort of like do generic shop rat stuff, sweeping, sanding, clean up. I never really got to shoot any of the paint, but I was around it, so I kind of knew what was going on. But not a lot of that knowledge really carried over. Most of the stuff was, again, trial and error. I went onto some websites, I bought a bunch of stuff, I ruined a bunch of paint jobs. God, like I made this scissor blade back in the day, and I think I painted that like 12 times. Like I painted it and I clear coat it, and then everything was fish eyes, and then I paint it and clear coat it as craters, and then and it was all just like a bunch of process of elimination. But the thing that saved me was how do I put this? Critical thinking about failure points. So I remember that every time I painted with clear coat, I'd get all these bumps and ripples and crap in the paint. And a friend of mine had told me that could be the result of moisture or oils, right? Messing with the clear coat. But urethane clears are especially sensitive to that. And I had bought those little like traps that you put on the bottom of the gun, and I bought a silicone-free airline, like a hose, and I put like this very expensive filter on the airline that like takes all the moisture and oil out of the air. And then I bought like a really expensive air gun, and I like wiped the part down, and everything was dusted and perfect. And then I'd mix up the clear port and shoot, and it would be terrible. And I literally woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I got it. And I was using these mixing cups from Smooth On, and in the manufacturing process, they put a mold release on the aluminum buck that creates the cup. And they don't clean the cup after it comes off the buck. They just ship, because it's not food safe. They don't have to prep it.
It's inconsequential to them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But it's enough to ruin clear coat. So I had spent like, God, $1,200 on filters and traps and lines and guns and all this stuff. And then I just wiped the inside of one of the cups with wax and grease remover. Perfect paint.
That's like a serious, crazy situation. Like that's a mystery. You solved a freaking mystery.
Yeah, and when I talk about the mania that you need to do this full time, That's just what happens every day. You know, you talk about chemistry. It's sort of like if you as a chemist were only aware of half of the reactive agents in a solution. And you saw the reaction and somebody said, figure out what else is in there based on...
That's what you do you do in college. Yeah,
right, exactly. Right. Yeah. And so you have to have that critical eye or critical mind to kind of go like, all right, this is what I did and this is what happened and what's the thing that's screwing up the process and how do I eliminate that? And it's that for wiring, it's that for paint and mold making, and anybody who's used platinum silicones, you know, it's all of that crap.
Yeah, I live for that. I love that. That's the best part. I mean, making stuff's fine, but that is so fun. I love that. That's so cool.
Troubleshooting is definitely a huge part of it. I think that's maybe one of the, when people ask me, you know, it's like, hey, what's like the best skill I can have? And I always tell them it's like being able to troubleshoot things.
Heck yeah.
And like you said, having the memory of being able to recall the steps that you went through if you don't document it or whatever. And because, and like our buddy Bill from Punished Props, I mean, he says a lot that you're essentially making a prototype every time, right? And in order to make a prototype every time, you have to be able to troubleshoot, because a lot of times you're using processes you never used before, or processes you have used before, and you're adding something new to it because you want a different result. And that number one skill is really that troubleshooting part of it, I think.
Yeah. And critical thinking, like for sure.
Yeah, and critical thinking, and it also comes with experience too, right? Yeah. So the more and trying and being willing to fail. Like you said, how many times did you do that scissor blade? 12? 18?
I mean, it was a bunch. It was a lot. Yeah. Actually, I never got it right on the scissor blade. What I did was I just painted the crappy clear on thick enough. Like I just like 7 coats of garbage clear, and then I just sanded it and buffed it until it was smooth again.
Yeah.
Like that's the real tea right there. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, it sucked. But I got it done and I shipped it out. But I learned a lot about that. And then from then on, I can like clear no problem these days.
Yeah, I believe it. It's your painting stuff. That's always been fascinating to me. I bought, I spend a lot of, I'm one of those makers, and we've talked about this before, that sees my friends and using cool stuff and then buys it. Like when Jill worked with me temporarily here, I had to talk her out of buying the chrome thing that you linked, because I was like, girl, we're not doing any jobs that we're going to need to be putting that on. Don't you just buy that for no reason.
It's neat, but it's not the Holy Grail, that's for sure.
Oh, well, that's good to hear then. I don't feel so bad. But
is there a Holy Grail other than Cosmic Chrome?
Rhodium plating.
Yeah, okay. Real chrome is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out that when you want something to look like real gold, you plate it in real gold.
Yeah. That's freakishly crazy that you made that.
Yeah. This
was actually a mistake.
Oh my gosh, look at the base.
Yeah.
What? The base is like marbly.
Yeah. This was supposed to be silver, and we got it back, and it was gold chrome instead. So we had to redo this. So that means I got one.
Well, the final one is silver, right?
Yeah, the final one is. We made a handful of them, actually. But they were for a Magic tournament a couple of years ago. And they're all out in the wild somewhere now. I don't know where.
Man, that's
probably on the back of toilets all across the world, I'm sure.
Just like Chad. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I hope Steve puts his on the back of a toilet too.
I was so happy to see that they brought back the infamous Booty Poppins.
Yes, we were very happy about that too.
What's Booty Poppins?
That's the nickname for the Twitch Cosplay Award.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
On my stream one time, I was like, she started as a 3D print, but I didn't like some elements of the model, so I ended up like cutting her arm and repositioning it, and cutting like her hips and changing that. And I actually like resculpted a whole new head, but there was a weird seam on her butt that just went like halfway up her spine. So I ended up like resculpting the whole butt on the thing, right? And so I'm on Twitch, and the camera's like right here, and I'm just like sanding this little polygon butt. And somebody decided to rename the trophy Booty Poppins because of that. And so that's the unofficial Twitch.
The unofficial. I was watching the whole thing live. It was as hilarious as it sounds.
Booty Poppins. That's super funny.
Oh good old Booty Poppins. Yeah. So they, I don't know what happened last year. They didn't have the trophy last year, and then they had Harrison remake it. So for this year, and Steve, who won last year, got to be presented with one as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. They retroactive had you make one for them. So
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
Speaking of trophies, have you you make a lot of stuff with Blizzard. Blizzard obviously is a company I love too. I'm working on something with them right now, and what I do is a lot different than you do. Obviously, it's my small scale self. But have you ever talked to them about doing a trophy? Because like their contest needs a trophy, dude.
Oh, you mean their costume contest?
Yeah. They're
super.
super into trophies, and like you're the guy to do it, man. Like they're into, you made Overwatch. You did Overwatch.
We did Overwatch, Heroes of the Storm, and Hearthstone for the past 2 years, actually.
Yeah, the Hearthstone. I forgot about that one.
With the Hearthstone one this past year was gorgeous. I loved that one. We have not done one for. Oh, we did StarCraft regional ones, but we've never done one for WoW. So that's the only property that we haven't worked with. But we know a lot of people in their esports tournaments. But nobody's ever approached us from the cosplay competition side of things. I would not be opposed to that. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. I think it could be a neat piece.
We better believe I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Just tell me, everybody listening that competes in that contest, all want a trophy,
We'd totally down for that. That'd be great.
That's such a good. Maybe that would be the opportunity for it to be WoW inspired, because that's like such a staple in the franchise, and you haven't done it. Maybe it would be like a cool character statue. Like, dang, that would be neat.
Do they? They don't do a trophy at all for the cosplay contest?
The grand prize winner used to be able to be forever in the game, and they still can as of now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that kind of like took the place of the trophy, because the trophy is that you're in the game. But the franchise, there's so many franchises now, and it's grown so much. Like I feel like a trophy is just a natural, better choice. People would want that, and then all the PR and photos that can go along with it, and the community. There's a lot of reasons why a beautiful trophy is a good thing to add to your contest.
Can I hire you to pitch this for me? Because you're doing something I could.
Jackie's amazing at pitching, by the way.
Yeah, I love that. If that was a job, I feel like I love the business side of things more than anything. I love the pitch. I'm passionate. I wish that was a job I could create and just get people to see why they need to have these cool things, because it works.
I will pay you whatever hourly rate you want to sit on all the conference calls, so I can go back in the shop and get back to working.
Man.
Well, we should talk about that then.
Sure.
Because that would be a lot of fun.
She's
but
solid,
be prepared,
man.
I'm gonna get you too much work. So
she's solid, because whenever I'm struggling on something, I'll be like, I want to approach this company. I don't know how to write it, and she'll be like, give me like 10 minutes, and then she'll send me like a whole letter, and I'm like, dang, this is good.
I did it for the X-Sisters recently. They sent me their smooth on pitch. I was like, girls, y'all got this. We had a Skype call last year about like the, making their business, changing the business. I like that kind of thing. Like I'm not, I guess I'm not one of those people that likes to keep things to myself or like behind, like, I don't know. It does me a disservice by not elevating other people too, because the faster and more accepted, more mainstream this goes, and more companies see the reason why they should be investing in this really pure, really fun, community, then it benefits us all. So that's why I like to look at that.
Well, I will definitely reach out to you for getting us some potential business.
It'd be fun. So.
Wow.
Look at Eric.
Eric, you can still come out here and solder, man. I still need
that. Yeah, Eric.
I know, man. I know. I wanted to say I really appreciated the being able to come and hang out at your shop after Dragon Con last year. That was fun to see the workplace and see some. I love the unfinished prop wall. That's like. The finished props are cool. But
it's a lot more populated now. There's a lot of stuff.
I bet it is. So he has a whole hallway there has the kits or whatever, but assembled, but the unfinished versions of them. So.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's actually a really cool thing.
There's a bright orange wall, and then on the wall we've just got a bright blank Smoothcast 320. So they're slightly tan, and I can't bring the camera over there, but I do have a photo of it on my phone. So I will hold my phone up to the screen. That's that's what it looks like.
There we go. Yeah. Cool. How cool is that?
It's an art piece.
Yeah,
it looks like an art piece. That's really cool.
It does. It looks really cool. I like it a lot. We're gonna run out of room soon, though.
Oh, I bet, man. Gosh, I have a stuff.
Say that.
Oh, you haven't been there a year?
No, actually, it will be a year, like a week and a half into April, I think, and it's already feeling crowded in here.
Wow.
Are you going to move out? Like,
no.
How hard is that to move?
The last move nearly killed me. So, do it again.
What about expanding? Is it possible to expand in your complex there?
Not really. A couple of people have like knocked walls out in between adjacent areas.
Yeah.
But the guys on that side of us, they're a convention installation company. They have been there since 1986, so wow. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Not planning on moving anytime soon.
Yeah, the guys on the other side, I do not know what they do. They say it's called Atlanta Fitness Repair, and apparently they repair treadmills and stuff. But they'll just they'll pull up a truck and just unload a whole bunch of weird thrift store furniture out of it. And I have no idea what they do. They have a big box fan out front that somebody drove into a building and crushed the whole backside of it at one point in time. And so that whole thing is just held together with ratchet straps now, and it's got a bunch of crap in it. I don't know, but they pay their rent and they've been there forever. So I don't think
super sketchy.
Yo, that's hilarious.
Hey, there was an interesting historical thing you told me about your building. You should share that real quick because I think it's kind of cool.
Oh, there's a really good story for this that actually happened since you came to the shop. Sweet Home Alabama, the album by Leonard Skinner, was recorded in the building directly adjacent to us. And that actually used to be one suite. This whole thing was like a record studio, and that included ours as well. But on this side was the control booth, and on that side was the sound booth, right? There's actually a couple of sections on the wall where you can see where there was windows and stuff. And occasionally there's a picture of Leonard Skinner on the front steps next door, and so people will come and they'll stand there and take pictures of themselves, oh, look where Leonard Skinner stood.
It's Mecca for Leonard Skinner fans.
Yeah, so this was hilarious because this dude showed up probably in his mid 50s or so, and you could tell he was oh, we're going. And he dragged his son with him, and he's we're going to go check out where Leonard Skinner recorded this. And they came from Tennessee, right? So this poor kid, who's probably, I think he looked like he was 17 or something, got dragged along. And I'm at my desk, and our front door is here, right? Uh-huh. So I'm at my desk, and I'm just sitting here doing work. And this dude and his son ring the doorbell, and I'm like, hey, can I help you? And the guy was like, oh, do you know Leonard Skinner? I'm like, yeah, man, I know. But what do you want? He's like, well, the people next door weren't there, and I was wondering if I could come in and take a look around. Maybe you could let me in. And I'm like, that's a separate company. Also, I can't let you in here. But he kind of walked in the front door anyway. But his son comes in and his son's
oh yeah, he recognizes everything, I bet.
Yeah, it's that's Daft Punk, Horizon, Skyrim, Rocket League, Final Fantasy, Zelda. It's what the hell is this? And I'm yeah. We're a prop making, and his dad's on board, and the son's this is the coolest thing. Screw it, it's best.
Oh, that's such a funny story. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He thought his dad just ended up taking him to his Mecca, essentially.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
The dad was like, "You sure you can't let us in?" I'm like, "Dude, that's not my company. I don't have the keys. What are you talking here?" Sure, grab a sledgehammer, work your way through the wall. I don't know what you want.
Oh my god, grab a sledgehammer.
But his son thought it was this place was cool. He's like, "This is so neat. What do you guys do?" So I told him about our business. I'm like, "Yeah, check us out." And so made that kid stay at least. That was pretty neat.
That's
Do you have
awesome.
to sign an NDA to come in?
Past this door.
I signed an NDA. I did.
Okay, yeah, that's what I assume. Yeah.
Up here, technically I should say up here because I have 2 whiteboards next to my desk that have all of our active jobs on it, and everything on those boards are NDA. So I probably should have people, if they just walk in here, do it. But you'd have to interpret my chicken scratch in series of numbers and letters as actual human language, which would be difficult.
You missed your calling. I guess you should have been a doctor, huh?
Yeah, but at least a prescribing doctor. Yeah.
Do you still do your notebooks? You know how you used to have a sketchbook that looked so interesting to me that you'd share periodically. It had write-ups and little sketch diagrams and stuff.
Yeah, I've got dozens of them. They're all stacked in my desk. I can't remember anything for more than 10 minutes, so I keep notes on all my stuff. A lot of them have cheeky comments that I sketch in them during conference calls, or crude illustrations about things I can't say out loud. But
those are going to be something one day. One day you're going to...
No, they're not. Those are going to be...
Come on.
Burned someday, so I don't get in trouble.
Oh, I bet they're so fast. I bet those books hold some serious stories, like fascinating things. Because in the short amount of time I've been in it, like, man, there's some weird. I mean, weird. I'm weird. I'm really weird. But so I guess I think normal's weird. But some of the stuff that goes on, like with the industry thing and the things they ask for, like I told Eric earlier, this probably doesn't apply to you, but like I have imposter syndrome from time to time, especially the bigger jobs they get. And recently,
that absolutely, I'm in the same boat. So
okay.
Yeah, no,
I'm glad.
I come in here every morning and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Why do people think that I'm going to do this? Because I am lost.
Yeah, but that says a lot. I wondered that too, because like I get away with it and somehow still get jobs. So you have to be really good at like you must be really good at like the professional side of pitching.
Well, there's I mean, and you have this in the same boat. Like you are confident and assured, and you have a system that produces results, right? So you're like, if somebody comes to you like, can you do this? You're like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you get done with it and you're like, I did it, but it's crap and I hate it and everybody else could have done it better. Like it's that weird sort of, there's a duality wherein you're like, we got this, we've done it tons of times. If somebody came up and they're like, we need an esports trophy in 2 weeks, I go, sure, we can do it. We've done it a bunch of times in the past. But then for me, I look at people like Henchman Studios. I look at people like Eric Newgard, at Impact, now Aurum Effects, and I see that they're like, well, we made this Warframe costume, or we made 17 Overwatch characters in a week, and I'm like, man, I don't know shit, And so it's real easy to look at somebody else in the field and go like, well, I'm inferior to X or Y or Z, and not give yourself the accolades you're due.
You're so right. It's good to hear it from you too, because like when I got my first industry project was that Nintendo one solo, and I was for sure. No, I really, in hindsight, definitely wasn't qualified. And I looked at, I thought, I don't want my friend. I was nervous about my friends, you and Bill and everybody else seeing it, because it was probably some of the not like cleanest work I've done, but it was not clean compared to my friends, and that's hard. And it's hard to build confidence despite always comparing yourself to your friends. It can be tricky.
Well, I think the thing that I would tell you and tell anybody in that situation is that your client is the one who's important in that scenario. So long as they were happy with the job, and so long as you fulfilled your timeline and your budget, there really isn't a metric out there outside, of your own critique that is going to impact you in a professional sense. And it's good to keep a critical eye at the end of a project and say, well, I could have done this better. What did I learn? But ultimately, if the person who hired you is happy and the work got done on time and on budget, then it's a win.
That's true. That's true.
That's actually very good advice.
Yeah,
I'm pantomiming this pragmatic side of things right now, while at the same time grappling with my own imposter syndrome when it comes to other people who run this sort of studio. But I know we do good work, and I know we get it done for big clients, and I'm proud of the work we do. But we always want more. Everybody always wants more. The human condition. Oh, did you guys want to see the thing I was painting?
Yes.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Back in a sec.
He read my mind.
He's been working on a really cool shotgun.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, the shotgun with the mold that I saw. Like yeah. Man, that mold was so crazy. I saw he had really large registration keys, and I was like, oh, okay, so I don't always have to do the super tiny registration keys. It was nice to see the big chunks.
Yeah, I often wonder about that sometimes too. It's like, how many is too many, or how few is not enough?
Yeah, because the Russ Adams, the guy that did the panel with me, he has a very specific way that he does his registration keys, and he works with wed clay, which is something I'd never heard of.
Oh, so this is a shotgun that we're working on right now for a game called Wrath, made by the guys at 3D Realms. And I really love urethane paint because I painted this yesterday, and it is
that's amazing.
Dude, absolutely. I want to cosplay Elmer Fudd with that right now.
This is it's a 2-bore shotgun. So just the stock, and all the way to the front of the chambers here is 40. No, this is 32 inches long, and then the barrels are another 16 inches on top of this. So the whole thing is almost 2 inches in full length.
There's another barrel piece that attaches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The barrels. Yeah, this is just half the gun. It's
just
just enormous.
got a stand going on there so you can paint.
Is that inside section where you did that PVC pipe thing with the casting of the PVC pipe? Is that
the front section of this from here on is that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but this is. I mean, I painted this whole thing yesterday, and I could ship it today. You know, it's
amazing.
catalyzed paint is the best. I still have some weathering to do on this, and then assembly, which is what I'm working on this weekend.
It has electronics.
Oh yeah. See these? I don't have a battery pack right now, but all those runes.
They light up, right?
Yeah, they light up red. There's an LED behind each one of these.
Oh, that's so cool.
Very cool.
I love that. That's so neat. I'm not usually like small handguns and stuff are okay to me. They're not usually like my thing, but something about a double barrel, like a big old shotgun is so cool. It doesn't matter if you like guns or not. Like that's rad.
Thank you.
That's so cool.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to getting it done and shipping it out tomorrow. It will be at PAX East.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. We'll be like at the booth. I've seen your stuff at PAX East before. I went and held some of your when you made them for, was it Brawlhalla?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to hold those. That was really cool.
We made. I think they're probably going to be PAX East as well. We made these two huge fists. Each one is about 3 feet tall. They're enormous. They're foam.
Massive.
Your hands in them. Yeah, they're really crazy.
They're foam.
They're going to be PAX East too. I forgot about that. Yeah, they're all Ava.
Wow, that's cool. Huh.
And we painted them with truck bed liner, so they would be like.
So they would hold up.
Just be indestructible. Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. Wow, it's fun to see, because most of the time we fixate on like your harder, I don't know what you would call those type of props that are like very rigid props, I guess.
Yeah, hard stuff. Yeah.
It's fun that you do like almost LARPy style too. Like LARP is a loose term, but stuff that can take a beating and the kids can hold it as well as adults. That's cool.
Yeah, that was one of their things. They're like, we want kids to be able to hold. So we got these 3 foot long fists that only weigh about like, I don't know, 4 pounds a piece. They're nothing. They're super lightweight. It's pretty cool.
I pitched an idea to Blizzard for BlizzCon. Those of you listening have heard it before, where it was they would have a booth that had employees stationed at it, and they'd have a selection of props that people could pose with. And the issue, and I was like, well, you could use the things you've already commissioned, but you can't really. You know what I mean? You're going to get one convention use out of them. They're all going to have to be repaired. You need to commission someone for a set of convention props that are durable, and they love the idea. It's just. How hard it is to get through the approval process, but that kind of concept that it's super durable and can take a beating, that's the stuff that's fun to let, your patrons pose with. It's already happening at all the PAXs. So you'd think a gaming convention like BlizzCon, it's just a natural fit. It's going to eventually like have those kind of things too. So
they'll get there. I think once people, like more and more people start doing this, we've been approached by people for photo booth style props like that.
Yeah.
It's like anything. Enough people start doing it, other people will catch on, and then everybody will want one, which we're game for.
Exactly.
Which just creates more business, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So when we wrap up, we like to have a final word. So whatever it could be, whatever word you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Just
give us a word.
A word.
A word.
Yeah.
Because
the
people that listen,
as you want.
The people that listen all the way through, they'll comment the word.
Yeah.
So,
and Karina, we know you're one of the ones listening all the way through, because when we went to Germany, our word was turtle, and they drew us as turtles.
Yeah,
like,
we've had
so
turtle, we've had beaver. Last time was
beaver.
With Evan and Caitlin. We had podcats because they're podcasters that like cats. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be a real word. So, This is profound. Profound. From the mind of Volpin.
Persistence.
Dang.
I think that's
throws down some truth.
Very fitting. Very fitting. That's awesome.
Well, we're really, really thankful for you taking a time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us, chat about prop making and life, and being a guy on the inside a little bit, way more than the rest of us. And we're just really thankful for having you be here.
No, thank you guys.
A lot of fun.
I haven't seen either of you in like a year, so it's nice.
It's been a while. It's been too long.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm sorry I was half an hour late because I totally lost track of time.
Oh.
Hey, no worries.
That's
We'd
okay.
much rather the guest be late than us be late. So there we go.
I've locked myself out of my shop twice, and one time had to climb through the window. So I've been late before.
Which makes for hilarious Instagram videos, but a little hard for podcasting.
Yeah, I'm hard.
That's great.
All right. Well, we're just going to call it. So thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time on Craft and Geek.
Yeah.
Hey guys.